the M91/38 Cavalry Carbine. This here is another acquisition in my Carcano collection. When it comes to the Cavalry carbines, really there were only three different variations in general. You had the 91 with the older style adjustable sight that was made up until 1938. The model 1938 is identical to this, fixed sight, but in the 7.35 caliber. And then the Italians decided they're not going to use that caliber, so they started manufacturing the 91/38, which is this, which is fixed sight and in the 6.5mm caliber. Also, this here is kind of streamlined a little for production. The flat spots on the barrel are gone. This only has a basic serial number and letters. You know, a lot of the markings aren't there. I don't know if this is the way wartime production was, or if this thing was, I got a feeling this thing was reworked after the war for sale elsewhere. And fortunately, I found it still has the folding bayonet on it, which a lot of times they're gone. And if you've seen my video on the barreled actions, this also has this weird sight. I believe it was re-blued because it looks like this rear sight was ground down also. I believe this was something that was done after the war when people were trying to either market these guns surplus-wise or try to get it to where you can hit something other than that 300 or 400 yards with them. So it kind of, even though it's a nice gun, again, this has a real nice bore in it. A lot of these, a couple of the last two I have really nice pristine bores. So, you know, this is for our testing of the ammunition sighting and to prove out, you know, how to use these guns. I've got a few examples and we can start working on it, but the only thing is I don't like the idea that the sights aren't original. So like I said, I have an older one without the bayonet, and I don't have one in the 7.3 caliber, and I do have that odd rifle that was converted to 8mm, which would have been a 91/38, or it could have been a 38, I don't know, because after it's done it's been reworked. And it's unusual, but so basically when it comes to the Cavalry carbines, three examples and you got most of them, unless you go to collecting the style of bayonet latches. Okay, everything I got, I believe, is the last version. There were different types of bayonet, the latch here. Okay, this one's pretty simple. You push the button in, kind of pull it down, flip it over, and snap it back. Okay, and same with getting it back in there. They had different types of latches that didn't perform well in the field and were retrofitted. Whenever the guns went in to get reworked, they would change them around. And we'll do a side-by-side, and we'll look at my old one, because my older one has a couple indents in there, which these other bayonet, the mechanism doesn't. So probably was set up at one time for a different type of system, and there's nothing on it now, so I have no idea. Alright, so let's do our side-by-side and take a closer look at it. Alright, looking down at the top of them, here's our original 91 with the flip-up sights here. And this was basically the configuration. This one was built in 36, and I just noticed it has a round barrel, where I thought the older ones would have the flats on there, but it doesn't. And then, like I said, we're missing the 7.3 6.5, and then this is the World War II style, or 3841, where, as you see, it's 6.5, and now you have the fixed sights instead of the adjustable sights here. And again, round barrel, and just, you know, usually there's other markings, a date and that. This only has a set of serial numbers on it. So again, could be something reworked post-war. Here's the odd 8mm, which, as you see, has a brand new barrel. The sight's been ground and remodified, and 7.9, and just again, no markings, nothing, just the serial number. So this possibly could be a post-World War II rework of the gun. Usually, like I've seen in my other little examples, the date is stamped on, would be stamped on this side. So this gun probably was reworked. It's not in the original issue condition. Somebody fooled with this after the war. Alright, and we'll take a look at the bayonet now. Okay, so we'll look at our bayonet mechanism. It's pretty simple. You got a push button here. You push the button in, it kind of drops down, and you flip it up and then push it down to where it locks. Now a lot of these have been removed and a little button mechanism has been removed. This one's still intact. It does have a little R and a circle stamp on the part itself. That's about the only marking, and then it just snaps back in. So there we go. But again, just like my barreled actions, this has a strange front sight on it, which I don't believe is an issue sight. I was trying to check on it. There's something similar, but I don't know. I might need to get a reference book or some other examples. Now let's look at the sights and the mechanisms side by side. Alright, so we'll look at the front end of these, and that's another problem, is you don't know if somebody's fooled with the sights. We'll go with my older 91. As you see, the bayonet's missing, but if you notice here, there's these little detents or whatever, which are not present on the other ones. So this gun was probably set up for some other variant of the locking mechanism, which I don't have an example or know much about. Also, this front sight is obviously not a military issue sight. It doesn't quite fit in there well. I got to shim it and fool with it. This is a sight somebody added on later after it looks like they did something to get it to fit in there. So that's not an original military sight. Now we go to the 9138, and we have that weird blade sight on there again, like them other little barreled actions. Now it could be that a company or an armory somewhere got possession of these guns after the war, and we're trying to improve them by replacing the sights, reworking them. Could be. I don't know. This gun, like I said, it's got a mint bore, but it's just got a serial number, missing any kind of a data manufacturer. And even the ones I got out in the garage at least had the data manufacturer net on there. So this is kind of strange. Now when we look at our 8mm conversion, which is another rework, the sight, now that is a type of Carcano sight called the domed sight. You know, I can find that in the parts, but I may have to get a reference book and look. I'm not really sure what type of sight that is. I know that's a replaced civilian sight on there. These were on them other barreled actions, and this is kind of similar to a known military style front sight. So more research to be done, but now I have an example of the 9138 to go by, and also has a nice bore. So we're going to work with our ammunition and do our accuracy and see how accurate these things really are.